Hello and welcome back to That Sounds Terrifying. As you know, I am Jess, that is Nick, and we are so excited to have our guest today. This is my and our friend Katie, my friend Katie. It's my friend.
Soon to be totally my friend because we are totally
Hmm.
connecting.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, Katie is in Nuts and Bolts with me at Comedy at the Carlson, and we like clicked like that. It was yeah, it was awesome. Um, but right now, I mean, there are technically three women in Nuts and Bolts, but
Technically.
yeah, but Jeannie, we want her back, but she's been having some stuff. So it's been Katie and I against the world full of
Against
men.
all the dudes. And it's
Yeah,
it's it's a real thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The amount of times we get typecasted as a mom or a sister or a girlfriend or
That's like total Hollywood.
and then like
Yeah.
Fiance.
and then I love seeing their faces when we're on stage and we turn it on them and we're the dudes and
Yeah.
we're
Hmm. They panic. There's like a blank face drop that happens where all of a sudden they're just like, huh? Like you can see a short circuit and they have to
Mhm.
like reestablish the connection.
yeah,
Like, what do
Well,
I do?
recalibrating.
just to
Yeah.
connect on that, I love the turning of the roles. I love that when I do it,
Yeah.
or it gets done to me. Like I think you've done it to me a couple times more in practice, Jess.
Yeah, I
And
have.
yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. I'm like, well, okay, and I start
Yeah.
singing like tales old as time is,
It's
Beauty and
so
the Beast and
fun.
everything. Yeah, it's like it's a lot of fun. So,
It's a
Yeah.
nice way to take on like a full character.
mhm,
Exactly.
for
And
sure.
like, and people think it's hysterical. Like one time I was on stage
Yes.
with Frank and somebody was like, it's a father-daughter. Father-daughter is the relationship because people give a
Yeah.
relationship. And so I immediately was like, Courtney.
And Frank plays a great woman.
He
Frank's
does.
like
And he was a
really,
perfect little girl.
yeah, he's got it down.
It was so funny. But like people died. They thought it was
Yeah.
so funny. Like, because they were expecting me to be Courtney. I'm like, but
Yeah.
that would not be fun.
That would not
Like
be as fun.
yeah, not
Yeah.
as fun. I don't know. But
Yeah. That's
anyways,
awesome.
we
Could
talk
talk
about
about
improv
improv forever.
all
Different
night.
I
Yeah.
podcasts.
know.
It is. I know we should have an improv podcast about
I've thought
how
about it, Jess. We don't have
It would
enough
just be
time.
yes and for
Yes,
like a
and the
full
whole.
hour.
the entire thing, which I guess, technically we're improving here,
Yeah.
except that, we sometimes have, planned stories, but usually you've heard the podcast, Katie. We go off on tangents.
Hmm.
Um,
Sometimes
and
things remind you of stuff, and then
Yeah.
that's a
yeah,
good
That's cool.
story.
for our regular listeners, they know, they know.
Yeah.
P.S. We have regular listeners, Nick. That's
Yeah.
so
You
freaking
do.
Katie's
exciting.
one of them. And I'm
Katie's one of them.
and she's
So
so
excited.
freaking cool.
I know.
Thank you,
But
honey.
Katie's here not because she's an improv, but because she has scary stories.
I
Yeah.
And I'm
do.
so excited. I found another spooky bee.
I think what's so fun is like, I don't know if you guys have experienced this in your lives, but like, there's so many facets of our personalities. And then, like, at different, I don't know, junctures in your life, you kind of like, some of them fall away, but
hmm
they're never like gone. They'll like come back. So it's really cool because when Jess told me you guys had this podcast, I was like, oh man, like, I got into criminal justice for a really long time. That's what I have my master's in. And it's fascinating to do all the deep dive into psychology and stuff. But the reason I got into that was because I was a spooky little kid,
Hmm.
because I liked ghost stories, because all like,
Yeah.
and the scariest thing to me are real people. So,
Yeah.
like,
Amen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We
Yeah.
we get into like I like true crime stuff too, and I listen to a lot of those podcasts. We get into that only if there's sort of like a spectral ghost kind of connection. Um, so yeah.
but it
But
kind of like brought back up that side of me that did those things as a kid where I like went on ghost trips. And my husband is not spooky. He does not like to be scared. I
mhm.
always joke that like if I like flat tire his shoe or I like trip him, I'm gonna get kicked in the shin. Like he's gonna be genuinely angry. I'm gonna get injured. So I don't do those things to him. But in other facets of my life, I've always been kind of pranky and like
Yeah.
I like spooky. I like goofy. So it's nice to have that kind of come back up with this podcast. It's been really fun.
I'm excited.
Cool. Yeah.
So then you've always been a little spooky. Love that. I guess my most important question is, have you ever watched Are You Afraid of the Dark? And what was
Yes.
your favorite episode?
Prom queen.
Okay, awesome.
Actually, I think it might be the one in the high school where they're like making eggs in the pool. Do you remember
Oh,
that
they're not
episode?
making eggs in the pool. It smells like sulfur because there's an
Mhm.
invisible demon in the pool and the kid can't swim, so he has a big crush on the girl. Oh yeah, I'll go on and on.
Yeah.
And then they find out like so the demon killed people in the pool until they finally closed it because he was invisible. And they
Mhm.
come to find out they built the pool on an old burial ground and they forgot to move one of the bodies and he was pissed.
Well,
So
that's
Jeez.
actually pretty fascinating because one of the things I was going to bring up, Nick, did you ever have any experiences with Lake Ronkonkoma?
I've been by it, haven't been really near it, like to have that kind of any kind of a feeling, but
So I guess there's been like an excessive amount of drownings
either
in
I
Lake
knew about that.
Ronkonkoma, and usually like young boys.
Hmm.
And the legend is that it was a Native American woman who was drowned in the lake, and so now she almost like siren songs dudes into their
Yeah.
deaths.
I did hear about that. I did hear about like the multiple drownings and that being kind of a legend around it. That's yeah, well, good thing I stayed away from that lake.
Right?
I guess so, but now you're
Maybe
safe to
there was a
go.
demon in the
Now I'm
lake.
safe. I'm not young
You're
anymore,
not a young
so
man.
so
Yeah, that's funny. But I mean, not funny as in like,
it's a sad story
It's
with a
just a
it is
sad thing.
sad.
Yeah.
comparison.
Yeah.
But Jess,
I'm
you do
assuming that's in Long Island.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, those
What was that, Nick?
I was just
Sorry.
gonna say, like one of the things that popped up in my thoughts, and we've talked a little bit about this, and I just gonna put you sort of on the spot here for the
Sure.
fan that we have here, and then the fans
Do
that
it.
might be listening. One of the thoughts I had was maybe rewatching some of the, but I said movies, but maybe it is like the Are You Afraid of the Darks kind of thing, and having like a fan commentary or something.
That'd be
We'll
so
select
fun.
an episode
That
that
would
I
be
think would be
really
kind of
fun.
cool, like a live
Yeah.
cast type thing. So if you're
That would be
interested
really
in
fun.
seeing that, let us know, and actually, maybe we'll have you come back. Maybe we'll do that, again.
They do
Yeah.
a Buffy podcast I love, and I was telling Jess about it. It's a
Yeah, you told me about that.
rewatcher.
Yeah.
So like it's an aunt and her niece, but they're closer to like sister age. And the aunt grew up watching it, and the niece didn't never saw any of it. So she's rewatching it with her, and then they're
Hmm.
just like discussing it and like going deep into it. But it's a great show.
Cool.
It sounds similar to that kind of like format, and
Yeah.
it's so nice to listen to.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. I never watched Buffy. It's so funny because you'd think that's right up my alley. I guess I always thought it was like a little uh
Kitschy.
yeah, like yeah, a
They
little
always had
or
fruit
like
punch mouth for the vampires.
sort of like I've never been into vampires, like blood, guts. Like I watched True Blood
Yeah. I like True
because I
Blood
thought
too.
it had really good writing.
Hmm.
But as
Hmm.
soon as it jumped the shark, as soon as
Yeah.
like Sookie was a fairy, I'm like, oh no, I'm out.
I gotta go.
I am done with this. But it had really good writing and it was beautiful to watch.
Hmm.
But yeah, Buffy, I was like, it's hokey and there's vampires and it's just never been my thing. I don't like blood. But then I go and watch Supernatural, the entire series, and that's full of blood. I don't.
Supernatural is also like legends and folklore, like
It
Yeah.
woven
is.
in too. So it's like super fun. But like the Buffy that I remember and like growing up with is just like really strong female character, very flawed female character, and then just like romance was never the sole focus. And it felt like
Yes.
at that time a lot of shows were directed where romance
All
was
of
like
them.
the
Yeah.
woman, that's what they're gonna get. And like you had your
Hmm.
first like gay relationship on Buffy and like all these things that were just like very um I don't know, more life paralleling. Like when you
Hmm.
read fantasy and like you kind of are just like, oh, this feels kind of like my life, but like with fairies.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, like I think it was also at the time because Buffy came out when we were in high school, right? Like
Mhm.
middle school, high school. So I feel like I was just too into the church to like watch that
Oh,
because
I'm
Oh
then,
yeah.
sure.
like that's
That was
demonic,
at the
blah blah
Oh,
blah.
devil.
that would have been
So
definitely a no-no.
Yes.
that's probably yeah, that's probably why. Yet they let us watch Friends, which I'm like, I
Everyone's
don't
living in
know.
sin on that show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was all that sin.
All that.
All that sin. But yeah, I don't know, it was funny. But yeah, I think Buffy was probably like playing in the Devil's Playground, so I just didn't do that. That's probably why Supernatural came out later,
Mhm.
like
Yep.
after, all that shit. So,
Your awakening.
yeah, after I was like, nah, this ain't for me.
I don't like it here.
Nah,
Yeah.
thanks.
I'm
But
sweating.
yeah, I will I like the idea, Nick, a lot. So we should like do something, even if it's not Are You Afraid of the Dark? It could be like
Yeah.
anything. But I would totally do like a recap watch party or something like that. That'd be
Yeah.
neat.
That'd
The
be
Are
cool.
You Afraid of the Darks are nice too because they're quick. They're like
They
Yeah.
are,
20-ish minutes.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're fast and they usually have like a happy ending, most of them. Some of them don't.
Some,
Um
yeah, like
yeah.
Some good
everything
Yeah.
kind of
closure.
evens out ish.
Everything's
Yeah.
always happy. Whereas like Goosebumps, I would always be like, oh, those poor people.
Yeah, Goosebumps was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have I can't watch TV without being too engrossed in it.
Sure.
Like if I
Yeah.
like give something my full
Emotionally invested.
yeah, if I give something my full attention, I can't. I'm like, oh God, oh no, I'll cry, I'll
Hmm
scream at the TV, not scream at it, but I'll yell at it, and I'll be like, what the hell are you doing? Why would you do that? Like I wouldn't have let her say that to me.
Do you
Um,
ever push off the end of a show, like if you know you're watching a
Hmm.
series because you just don't want it to end, so like you don't watch
yes,
that last episode?
yep.
Yeah.
We literally just watched the end of Shrinking last night because, and it was like we watched every episode until that one and then like took like a month off because we wanted it to just
Gotta
Yeah.
last.
savor it.
Yeah.
Somehow that's
We did
less
that.
sad than watching the last episode. Like,
Watching the
Yeah.
last one is
I
always
don't,
sad. You're like, I'm gonna be sad. I'm saying goodbye to
yeah,
people. Like it feels
right.
like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
graduating or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
We
end
were
of
talking.
Supernatural.
Yeah.
Oh
I
my
put it off
God.
for years. I
And
wouldn't
that
watch
one
it.
was really long. I still won't watch the end of Dexter, but that's a different, there's a
Hmm.
different reason for that.
Oh, I won't
Yeah.
watch Dexter. But
That's
again,
not up her
blood and
alley.
guts, not my
Dexter.
thing.
I love Dexter.
Yeah, me too. And that last episode, I heard all about it, and I'm
Yeah.
just,
Yeah.
No, and that I think also is part of the problem too, is like when things end, it doesn't end the way that you want it to end, and then you're
Hmm.
disappointed too on top of it, not just missing the characters, but then you're like, especially when
people
they
say that
like,
about Sopranos all the time.
yeah, yeah, especially when they kill people off, they're like, what? Now they can never come back. But that
Right.
sometimes they have these rekindling things where they bring people back anyway. Like in some
They
hokey
become
way.
like a ghost or an apparition or
Yeah.
like a,
Or they never
yeah,
died. Oh,
remembrance. So, right.
yeah. The
They're just
boat blew
Tupac
up,
somewhere.
sank to the bottom of the ocean, and then somehow he surfaces and is on a plank of wood and
He's more
whatever.
buoyant than everybody else.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
all.
He's like Jason Bourne. All right. So, but we probably should get to some stories.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Absolutely.
So Katie,
Yeah.
where would you like to start?
Well, so I was going to start with a kind of just in sequential order. So, like the first story, um, as a kid and like all growing up, I've always been like, and Jess, I heard you talking about this with Mitch, just like that, like emotional awareness or like, energy awareness and just like feeling stuff. So, I would always I loved old houses because they would give me this like overall spooky feeling or like this feeling like I'd just been on the top and coming down on a roller coaster,
Hmm.
no matter what. And when I was younger, I was like, oh, this is just because like I'm curious or whatever. But as I got older, I realized it was just like I'm always feeling stuff. I'm always feeling whatever energies are around me. So whatever was left in that space,
Hmm.
um, usually like you can feel it. But growing up, when I was like 13 years old, my grandma had been living in Florida. That was my mom's mother. And she had her move into our house for half the year and then my aunt's house in Florida for the other half a year. So 6 months with us, 6 months with her. My grandma was a trip as a lady. She was a hell of a woman. She was very, like, very smart, very strong, very fiery, and uh, like she would just became this like legend with me and my friends essentially when she lived with me because she was wild. Like she would do crazy things like we remember at my graduation party my there were a bunch of the dads outside drinking and smoking cigars and my grandma just like walked up and she was like, hey, they call me Willie, can I get one of them cigars? And just like hung out with the dude smoking cigars the rest of the night. It's just odd. But she passed away. She had a stroke in my house when I was younger.
Hmm.
Um, and she passed away when I was like around 13, 14. Um, and my girlfriend Amanda had like, she's also just like a little bit more sensitive. And she had like a really funny relationship with my grandma because she would just go toe to toe with her. Like if my grandma was like bitching at her about something, Amanda would be bitching right back, and it would just be this like really like ridiculous, very Long Island, like
Yep.
very like that loud family with the not always the nicest things to say. Um, but but we were driving in my car one night, and we were by my old house in Dogwood, and we're just like kind of like talking about my grandma. It had been like a year or two since she passed, and we're just like we were laughing about a story about her and just like cry laughing. It was just one of those stupid moments. And I had at the time like a 290 Eve, like white Mercedes, like 92. It was old, 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 super cool. And we're just kind of like trucking along with my like cassette tape of like, I don't know, Spice Girls playing. And I stopped the car. I like screeched my car to a stop because all of a sudden I just felt something and saw this like white mist that was like kind of in a shape right in front of my car. And at the same time that I stopped my car, she grabbed me and kind of like took this like deep gasp. And I was like, Minda, did you just see that? And she was like, oh my God, Willie knows we're talking about her. And I was like, oh fuck. So like, immediately just like knew grandma's still around. Grandma's still like trying to like keep eyes on stuff.
Mhm.
Not in that way, Jess. It would not have been in the cute way. In the way where she's like, what can I do? Like, can I rip her skirt when she's walking into school and just like fuck with her a little
Oh,
bit?
not in the
Like,
kind way.
that's why
In
grandma's
the
around
oh, okay.
still. Yeah, no, no, it's
No.
Mess with you.
we
How do
used
I
to
mess with
joke like
grandma?
you know how some people are like, oh, they're too mean to die. Like we used to make that joke about my grandma too much. Far too much.
Oh,
Jeez.
grandma.
She's so
Yeah.
smart. Real nasty.
Real
Um,
nasty.
real nasty. But I've had like a lot of unfortunately like death growing up. So I feel like the
Hmm.
introduction to it has always made me a little more sensitive too.
Hmm.
Um, like Jess, you had talked about like I think it was you had talked about the first time you saw like a dead body in a casket, and I remember mine. It was my
Hmm.
godmother's ex-husband. He looked exactly like a vampire would look. I
Yeah.
hid in a coat closet for a while, and I was like 4.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, but just like those kinds of things, I feel like when you get that spark as a kid, I can remember watching Hocus Pocus and thinking like, "Oh my God, look at the witches. This is
Yeah.
cool. This is weird." Like you just then you kind of get like a feel for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I can't get the idea of going to either Lilydale or I checked out Valentine after that episode and just did like a little drive by, but just
Mhm.
like the energy's got to be insane in those
Yeah.
spaces.
Hmm. Yeah, it has to. Actually, that's so funny you said that because I was driving by Valentine today and I thought of you. Um, but yeah, they are. But like I would love to get in there too. I would just love to get in there. It would be amazing.
Right. And I started looking at the Lilydale, like at their list of events and stuff. They have a lot of stuff going
They
on.
do. I've been there twice, 3 times, twice. I don't
Mhm.
even. I've been there a few times. It is nice. If you're gonna go, make a reservation with whatever psychic that like, you know, um, calls to you on the website. Do it beforehand because it's hard to get in like the day of.
Gotcha.
But their circles are fun. The circles are kind of spiritualist. They are spiritualist. They do mediumship readings in the circles, but not everybody gets a message. It's like whomever in the time allowed. Because there's a lot of people there. But it is very quiet there and sweet and soft. I really like it. It's calming there.
That's such an interesting way to describe a place because it is really probably like the people, all the people around are in like a state where they feel comfortable with who they are. Whereas like if you are relatively energy sensitive and you're out in the world, you notice how many people are like not comfortable in their skin,
Hmm.
not comfortable with like things that they're saying, doing, feel like drivers are a great example. Like how many
Hmm.
people are actually comfortable driving?
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's like
Yeah.
25% of people on the road. Everybody else is like psychotic.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was just thinking kind of just the way that you explained it too. For some people, I think it might be extremely loud in a place like that. So where you guys were talking about the energies and stuff, quiet and peaceful because they're so calm in themselves, but the amount of stuff that's probably going around that's sensitive people can pick up on, I feel like it would be heightened.
Sure, like they
Um,
can feel like what everybody's thinking or
not, I mean, like,
Or
but
just the energy.
that's not how mediumship really works. It can work like that if you don't know how to ground yourself and you don't know
Hmm.
how to like turn it down or off. But it's interesting. Like if because the reason I think it's so high level there, Nick, and quiet
Hmm.
is because um and I just said it because it's high level. Low level entities are louder because they're closer to our dimension, right? Like, so a ghost, not
Hmm.
a spirit. So somebody who hasn't gone to the light, they don't have the ability to feed off of the light to get their energy from the light, right? Like they have to feed off your fear. I've said this on the podcast before.
Yeah.
That your fear, your anger, your whatever. Um, so they're more low-hanging fruit, so to speak, to get into because they're louder for us, right?
Hmm.
Like it's heavier energy, so it's easier to pick up on and feel when it's
it
more
kind of reminds
oppressive
me of
and
like
heavy.
the Karen of the spirit world. So like the like really just like dissatisfied spirits are
Yeah,
just like so squeaky and like just like
they
pay attention
are.
to me, look at me, look at me,
Yeah.
look at me, look at me, which
And
is
they're
really
heavy.
interesting.
Yeah. They're heavy, you feel them.
Hmm.
Um and and the spirits that are at Lilydale are not necessarily ghosts unless there's somebody like looking to cross over. They're more high level. So it's more
Hmm.
about being in tune, getting your, brain focused on and your soul and heart focused on connecting to a higher plane, that higher level.
Hmm.
And so, if you're not open for business, so to speak, like if you're not open to talking, you're not going to sense them as much, right? Like if you're just taking in, like I'm taking in the sights here, it is so cute, it is so quaint, it is so beautiful and peaceful. You're not going to sense them as much. You can still sense it. You can sense the peace and tranquility because that's what high level is, right? That's what love is. That's what light is. It's high, it's peace, it's contentedness, it's happiness, so you are tuning into it. It's just not oppressive or angry or frustrated or confused or and again, like it's just not as heavy. So it's not as easy as saying like, yes, I pick up on this. Yes, I know this.
Hmm.
It's different.
Cool.
Well, and you would think like similarly to when you talk about your spirit guides when you're doing tarot, like that a lot of these people that are in this space have pretty strong beliefs and pretty like gentle, I would think kind, strong like spirit guides. They're tuning into like you're
Yeah.
saying those like higher
Yeah.
beings of for best good.
It's a
Hmm.
higher frequency. We'll call them frequencies.
Yeah.
Lower frequencies, easier to pick up on. You can hear if somebody's got their bass going, you can hear the bass. Like you could be like a block away and you can hear somebody whose
Yeah.
bass is really high.
It's true.
Yeah.
But you can't hear like the higher vibrations, the higher sounds that are going on.
The
There's
dog
other
whistle.
music besides the bass, like, but you can't
Yeah.
hear it from a block away. So yeah, it's like a dog whistle, like but not even that high, but you're gonna feel and hear the heavier stuff first.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then a lot of people do, like when a lot of people are waking up to their abilities, their mediumship and things like that, it does start very low level, and that's why a lot of people get scared, right?
Hmm.
Because they're meeting these like entities that are way lower level, which is why like probably as a child, I'll just use myself as an example, but it goes for many, many people. And our most recent guest too, like you see these things that scare you. You see these things that
Right.
like, as a child like make you feel so scared because it's so low level and they know that they can go to you, you're going to see them, you're going to pick up on them, and like that gives them what they need for energy.
Hmm.
Well, it was like, who was the guest you had that was talking about the blue sign on the road? Like, so many little kids have this blue sign because they're just so much more open
Hmm.
and just like creative. So they would be perfect. They're kind of perfect little candidates for a lower level to like tap into.
Truly,
Right.
truly, truly. Yeah. So yeah, and Steven was
Yeah.
saying like he saw something so scary when he was little. It's easier. So yeah, exactly that.
A lot more shadows in the night.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but anyways, I digress. I'll stop my
No,
No,
I
no, it
like
was good
it. I find it
information.
very fascinating.
my
No,
Um,
for sure.
I find it really interesting, and I think it's so crazy because I've only been to one like Jess did read tarot for me like a couple weeks ago, but that was only my second time. I'd seen one other, and I can't tell you anything she said to me. Um, that was anything. I
Hmm.
barely remember the encounter because it just it was very generic,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and it just didn't feel genuine, I guess.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I think I find it fascinating because I grew up Presbyterian, which is kind of just like a very loosey goosey, like relaxed version of like Christianity. Like everybody's just very, and from a young age, I was very outspokenly like not a believer in God. Like we had to write a whole confirmation paper about it, and they still confirmed me, which was weird because I said God's not real
Do not
and
believe
people
in
made
God.
him up. Right. So like that was really interesting that they still let me whatever do whatever. Um, but I think that in like going through that growing up, I had some like I remember asking my mom around my confirmation, why do you believe in God? Because my mom's like very spiritual. Like she's very like God is there.
Hmm.
I believe in spirit. I believe in a higher power. I don't want to call it anything.
Sure.
Just want to kind of like vibe with it. But she wrote me this whole long note, and it essentially culminated into when I was 4. I had bacterial meningitis,
Hmm.
Oh,
um,
that's
and
the bad one.
Yeah.
that's yeah. So for many people who might not know, like bacterial meningitis, you either end up blind, deaf, or dead.
Mhm.
There's usually no other way around it. You whatever. But so I was in the hospital, and at the same time, my dad got a kidney stone, and so
Hmm.
my dad was in the hospital like a floor up. I was a floor down. My mom's just bouncing between the floors, and we ended up having one of the biggest. So this was probably like '94. We had one of the biggest like snowstorms in Long Island
Hmm.
history, and all the power went out. And I was in like the children's unit, and it was like very scary. And at the time, my dad had worked for News 12 Long Island.
Hmm.
And so they had sent like these care packages of like toys and stuff. And there was this little doll that had a little light up crown. And all the lights went out. And my mom had invited all the kids into my room. And she read us stories by like the light of the crown.
Mhm.
But she said at the height of my meningitis, I was pronounced almost dead. Like they were like, she's not coming back. Like she's gone.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Um, but then I pulled through, and she asked me if I remembered anything. And she said that I remembered being told it I had to go back home. Like that it wasn't time for me to leave home yet. I needed to stick around.
Hmm.
Um, I don't remember that. I was way too little, but for
Right.
her, she said that it just strengthened her belief in that higher power so much more because I said I saw it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, and I've always kind of carried that because again, I do like energies for me, yes, higher power, yes. I just the classical religion, the religion that a lot of us get like kind of force fed growing up is a lot more about control than it is about
Hmm.
allowing the world to be and like letting things come and go to you as they should. Um, so I just can't get behind it. There's just so
Hmm.
many things that have been blamed on religion, so many like murders and
Right.
whatever. So for me, it's just It's like
Yeah,
not a starter.
totally.
Um,
Yeah. It's interesting. There's a couple things that I connected with your sharing that story, and um, one of them actually was you said your dad worked for News 12, right? So I was kind of a weird kid. I woke up and I like watched the news mostly because my
love
parents had it
that.
on.
If you remember Bill
Yeah.
Zimmerman,
Hmm.
that was my dad.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And so the other person that it was that I saw on it was Carol Silva.
Hmm.
All right. And so I just would always remember waking up and hearing that. And then I'd like, that. So flash forward, I was working at Cortland and her son was interested in that college. And she came to visit and I got to meet her. And it was just like meeting a
Cool.
star, right?
That's so
It
funny.
was just so weird. And then I'm like, telling her all about that stuff. But it's just that's kind of it's just like more I talk to you, the more connections that I didn't realize that we had. It just keeps popping up. But the other part of the story that I just wanted to connect to, that's probably a little more important, more connection with the podcast, is I think that like the thing that you experience, your mom also experienced too. Like it happens like regardless of like religion, and there's so many different
Oh yeah.
like similarities with those stories that like the more older I get, like I'm a practicing Catholic, but the more I think about it, the more I feel like it's just all interconnected and kind of like what you're saying, and in spirit and the higher power kind of a thing that it'll exist in some way. But we as man has created these confines that we feel like you have to fit into this box, and when it doesn't fit in
Yeah.
the box, we're just gonna jam it into the box anyway and say that it does.
Yeah.
Whereas,
Meanwhile, every religion
yeah.
across the boards, for the most part, except for like very extremist ones and like kind of for the most part small scale,
Mhm.
every religion preaches loving your
Right.
neighbor and like not judging people and like opening your door to strangers. So
Yeah.
it's so weird to me to watch it get used for such a like foul purpose on so
Mhm.
many occasions. And I
Mm.
did ask my dad this, Nick, you'll like this. It was before I get had my son, and I was like, we were having a late night glass of whiskey, and I was like, I don't know, Dad. Like, I don't know if I should bring a kid into the world. Like, why would I do that? It's so
Mhm.
bad, and like, whatever. Um, and he goes, shut up. And I was like, what? I was like, just shut up. He's like, so stupid. Just do it. He's like, this, the world, like nature. Do you think the monkeys ask if they should have babies? Like, they just keep the world going. He's like, I believe in the environment. I believe in like nature. I believe in things just functioning the way that they were meant to function.
Yeah.
And, my parents ascribe to the thought, like, just don't overthink anything, which is just not my life. So that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But I do think about that conversation a lot because he was essentially saying to me, like, just be here,
Mhm.
be present, stop
Yeah.
overthinking, like, where it comes from, what to call it, what it makes you do. Just like follow your heart, follow your stuff, and like, whatever. And it's super crazy because my dad passed away like just under 2 years ago.
Mhm.
Um, and I I was talking to somebody about this today, but I very much believe in timing. Everything happens where it's supposed to happen. And even if I'm angry about it, it was supposed to be that way.
Mhm.
Um, and I have four half siblings. Well, had four half, have three half siblings now. I always assumed they're much, much older than me. I always assumed that when my dad passed, it would be like me and my mom taking care of everything. Because they all live in way different places and like have big, big families. And like, I didn't ever see us being able to coordinate schedules or figure that kind of thing out. And my dad ended up being hospiced in our home. And all of my siblings were there and we were all standing with him like when it happened. And he is a massive Ray Charles was a massive Ray Charles fan. Like when Ray Charles died, he listened to Ray Charles for 3 weeks and mourned, like
Mhm.
wore black. It was ridiculous. Um, but I started playing like Hit the Road Jack, I think,
Mhm.
on my phone because I was like, whatever, we didn't know anything was about to happen, but I was like, I'm just gonna let some music play. My dad's favorite Ray Charles song is America the Beautiful. Like,
Mhm.
brought a tear to that man's eye every time he heard it. Uh, I didn't put that song on. It just came up next after Hit the Road Jack. And as soon as it ended, he passed.
Mm.
My goodness.
And it was like, just
Yeah.
like mind blown. Because obviously it's sad, obviously whatever, but
Hmm.
we knew my dad was older. We had a little time to like understand what was going on. Um, but I was like, damn, it's not like he got to sit there. Like you think about energy, but you're like, did he sit there and think like, this is it. This is where I want it to, this is where I'm going out. This is the
Yeah.
moment, like whatever. Or was it just timing, just like kismet and just happened to be that way? Because I'd been with him for 5 days. I hadn't played any music.
Yeah.
And I was like, so weird.
Yeah, that is weird.
Jim Harold's Campfire podcast, he always says, it's too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. And
Right.
I really
Yes.
ascribe to that. Um, it is some things are just too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. And sometimes they're little things that don't matter, you know?
Hmm.
And
Right.
other like today I was talking about Jaws. I was talking about the movie Jaws. I can't tell you the last time I thought about that movie. I don't care about it. I never really saw it. I think I
Sure.
saw it once when I was little. But today I was talking about it with somebody because I was talking to my son last night at bedtime about something. I don't even remember what it was, but I was thinking about like sharks and I was
Yeah.
thinking about Jaws. And so I was talking to this friend on the phone and I was like, and then like, like it's not like a scene out of Jaws. And then literally I got home and an email popped up and said, "Today is the 50th anniversary of the movie Jaws." And I was like, "No shit."
Yeah.
Like
That makes
but
sense.
like it
Yeah.
means nothing, right?
Right.
But
No,
it's just a
but
little
it just,
like coincidence, right? Like
Yeah.
that's a coincidence. But like some things are too much of a coincidence to be a coincidence. Like that was his favorite song and then he passed, and I'm a firm believer that our loved ones come and get us, you
Hmm.
know. If we're in a if you're surrounded by loved ones and family when you die and it's not like something, cruel, quick or tragic, um I firmly believe our loved ones come and get you, and I think that that was him probably already leaving and saying goodbye at that point.
yeah.
Like that was his goodbye to you, because he was already transitioning out of his body.
Well, and
So,
Yeah.
I didn't bring my husband or my son with me. It was just like my siblings and my mom. And I put my son on FaceTime.
mm,
And of course, it's like very confusing, right? You don't know what to say to a little kid when someone's dying because you're like, how do I explain this? How do I not
Yeah.
traumatize you? How do I whatever? But I held him up on FaceTime to my dad, who had not spoken or made any like real movements other than like kind of groaning
mhm.
for days. And I just held up the like FaceTime. So my son was like, I want to say hi to Charles. And I was like, okay. So I like turned the phone and my dad just started smiling. And it was just like this sweet little moment where you're like, God, it's just like it's a twitch of the face,
Yeah.
right? Like it's like just a blip on the radar of like what is happening, but it's like such a big deal.
Hmm.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I find it crazy. It was a really interesting experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I've shared on the show about my dad's story. One of
Yep.
them had to do with the cicada on the window.
Yep. Smacking you in the chest, you'd said.
Right? Yeah, yeah. And it was there was a part of it, and I can't remember if we shared this part or not, but it was like on my grandmother's window in the hospital, Huntington Hospital, for forever. And when my dad got up there and she had passed, it was gone, right? So, you know,
Crazy.
it's crazy that like he looked like had the presence of mind to look in the window first of all to see like
Right.
is that there, your mom just passed away, right? But also it's like going back to kind of what Jess was saying, like it was time, and I do believe the family members come back to help, or somebody comes back to help escort or bring someone home, right? And so I think that the one thing is that I hope that I will not be a cicada. I hope it would be something freaking cool, like some sort of like hawk or
I better be a
falcon.
dog. That's what I better be. I
Yeah,
better be a dog in a white rich lady's house. Like that's where I want to live. I was thinking about it today. I was like, I want to
yeah.
die petting a dog and then I want to come back as a
As a
dog.
dog.
Like
Yeah.
that's
I don't know if I want to be the dog the whole time or the bird the whole time, just for like that moment where like I'm escorting a spirit home. Let me be something cool. Um,
It's
because
funny.
like my luck bet Jess, I would be like a fly and then someone would freaking swat me and then I'd be stuck in purgatory or some crap.
and no,
You
then you
know?
come up for the next round
Yeah, it's
and
next
maybe
round.
you're a
Yeah,
squirrel
yeah.
now.
I feel like you're not the actual, like, spirit
I
isn't
know.
the actual cicada. It's just a sign for you because
Yeah.
nature is so easy to manipulate for spirit.
Yeah.
So it's just a sign like, hey, I'm here. Here's my presence in a physical manifestation, whatever that may be, but you're not necessarily the cicada or the bird or the dog. You're
Well, it kind
just,
of reminds me of Beetlejuice, right?
Yeah.
Like they couldn't like actually show them that they were
Yeah.
ghosts. Like they had to show
right.
things floating or like it
Yeah.
didn't
Yeah.
look like they were there. So like, the spirit
Yeah.
can't actually show its physical form. So it's like, hey,
Right.
I'm
Right. So it
here.
it manipulates
Yeah.
nature, I mean this is
Who
all
knows? This is all
conjecture,
conjecture.
right?
Yeah.
Like but it's still something um from what I've experienced that's kind of what it is. Like I was there, I sent a bird. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
you sent the bird. Sorry. Like,
Yeah.
she's saying she
Oops.
sent a bird. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's what I hear. And so that's why I'm like, oh, okay. Like
Yeah.
she's not the bird. She sent the bird.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I know.
Uh,
I get it, but I
Yeah,
guess
no,
it's
but that
also
is
that
funny.
childhood dream of being like, oh, I'm gonna be a tiger, or
It'd be a
whatever.
great movie.
Yeah.
Can you
yeah, that would
imagine?
be
Like,
cool.
it'd be a really fun movie. Like, now I'm a cicada. Now
Yeah.
I have to wait to die. And
God damn it. I don't want to die like this again.
I came
Jesus.
back as a parrot. How long do these things live for?
Why
No.
is it 100 years?
Yeah, it's
Why
kind of
can I
like
only say
mixing
thank
in,
you?
yeah, reincarnation into another religion there, just
So funny.
man.
But
Um,
they all mix.
Yeah.
Um, so I feel I don't know where we are on time, but I feel like I could probably throw my last story, you guys, if
yeah.
you're
Yeah.
down.
Give us your
That'd be
story.
awesome.
All right, cool. So my buddy Issa in high school, he was like Nick and I were talking before, teenage dirtbag. I had
Hmm.
no idea that we just wrote that about a murderer on Long Island. Like that's what that song's about. Like some dude that murdered his friends in the woods in Long Island.
Nope, had no
Yeah.
idea of that
Yeah.
either.
No idea. But you do know Amityville Horror is Long
Yep.
Island. There are all these other like little pockets, but one of the spaces is Sweet Hollow Road in Huntington. And I asked Nick about that
Yeah.
because he's from Huntington.
Mhm.
And so there's this big overpass. It's like this, there's like this spooky little part of the road. And the one of the old wives' tales is that if you put your car in neutral under the overpass, this like big old stone bridge, that you're going to have all these little kid hands on the back of your car because a group of kids apparently hung themselves there.
Hmm.
For whatever reason, a group of kids would do that together as a game. Like 7-year-olds, right? Because they're like little
Yeah.
hands you're supposed to look for.
Mhm.
Whatever. The story, we were like, what? We're bored one night. We're like, we'll drive there. We used to do this stuff all the time late at night. It's like probably 11:30, 12. And we drive, and it's me in the passenger seat. My buddy Issa's driving, and then we had my niece Gabby, who's like closer to my age, and our buddy Pat in the back seat. And we're driving along, and we're like, all right, we put the car in neutral. I don't know if you guys have ever like tested out some of the like ghost theories, but like you're like waiting for something. You're like, oh, this is it.
Mhm.
I'm gonna put my car in neutral, and we're gonna find tiny handprints on the back. This is gonna be great.
Hmm.
No, we like sat there for like 10, 20, whatever amount of time, just like, what the fuck? Like twiddling our thumbs. Like, what is, we're in neutral. Anyone gonna push us out from under here? Like, what the fuck? So we throw the car back into drive and we're about to like pull away and we start to go pull away. And there are these like really bright headlights that pop up in our back window. And we're like, what the fuck? And it reminds me of your story with the cemetery, but like
Hmm.
these headlights pop up in the back window. What the fuck? And I'm like, Issa, drive. This guy's gonna hit us. And he goes to drive, and the car was in neutral. And I was like, did you do that? And he was like, no, I didn't fucking do that. He was like, did you do that? And I was like, I didn't do it. And we're just like
Yeah.
bickering like old married couple. And like, I'm like, you gotta put the car in drive and we gotta go. And this car followed us for probably like a mile and a half until I was literally like, dude, you gotta pull the car over. We gotta see what the fuck's going on. And we go to pull over and it's gone. It was just gone. And we are like, what the fuck was that? Oh my
It didn't pass
God.
you, it was just gone.
It's just
No,
gone.
and it was a big pickup truck. Like we all saw it. It was
Hmm.
like a tan pickup truck. It had brown lines or brown like lines running around the side of it. And like we just couldn't see the driver because the lights were too bright, but it was there and then it was gone. And I messaged Issa the other day because we don't talk so much anymore, but I was like, hey, dude, I'm going to be on my friend's podcast. And do you remember this? And he was like, fuck yeah. He was like, I
Yeah.
remember it. And that car never went into neutral on its own before that and never did it after that. And I was
Weird.
like, yeah,
That's
I
crazy.
don't
So how did
know.
you so you saw the bright headlights behind you. How did you see the stripes on the side of the car? Like how did
Because we kept trying to like take turns to
oh
try and lose
turn.
them. And
Okay.
Hmm.
so anytime we do like some kind of like anything, you could kind of just see like the side of the car, you get that like glance at it.
Yeah.
And it followed us for a while. I was like,
Was it like an old for the time car or was it like
it was
a
like an old Chevy truck, like one you'd see on
Yeah.
like a farm
I feel
that they
like
okay.
you're
used to
like
do just like the
70s.
basic.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
seems
and
like 70s.
one of the other stories that like I remember a lot as a kid because there's a lot of psychiatric centers and like there's this really big one in Kings Park that was known for being like extremely abusive and like what this country was doing when we were like, oh, these mental places are
Yeah.
abusive. We're just going to open the doors and let everybody go and like offer no assistance. So it just like opened, like just whatever.
This tracks.
Um,
Yeah.
but there was an old story about this guy who went off to war. And his wife started to go through menopause in the psych center because one of the stories is that it got burnt down by a female inmate patient.
Patient,
Um,
but
and
probably inmate covers that.
probably now that they've
Yeah.
burned it down, they are an inmate.
Yeah.
Um, but the story went that she burnt this place down. But the one that I always heard was that her husband went to war. She got put in the psychiatric facility when she started to go through menopause because she was acting crazy. And when he got back from war, she had taken her own life.
Hmm.
And in a fit of rage, he burned every room down. And so, like, I don't know why, but I always got the feeling, and like the psych center is not necessarily near Sweet Hollow Road. It just like felt like this like spook, but I always got the feeling it was like her husband.
Mm.
That was just like the vibe I got. Was just like angry dude.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it we went and Nick and I were talking before,
Yeah.
both of us have been to the psychiatric center. It's the grossest feeling when you drive through there. You just immediately, and it's this big like compoundy kind of space. So you just
Yeah.
immediately feel bad. And people say they hear screaming and voices and all this crazy stuff that happens there. I'm sure they
Yeah.
do. Like I'm
Yeah.
sure
Maybe
it.
Well, yeah, we did.
people stuck in a confined space and like they're vulnerable. So negativity and negative entities, they like, they love to feed on that negativity and the vulnerability of any patients and things like that. Yeah, that's,
Yeah.
who's gonna believe you sort of
Right.
thing.
I always
Um,
think of like of like a Nurse Ratchet situation where it's just like
yeah.
um the worst energies in those spaces are the people that were providing the care.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Like, I mean, not in all cases. I don't want to say that because
No,
healthcare
but
workers are very important. But in a lot of cases, there was a lot of abuse,
Hmm.
and especially in facilities that took care of the mentally disabled and yeah, that's awful.
it's
That's
Yeah.
always
awful.
just our vulnerable
Yeah.
populations. It's the children that can't speak up, it's the elderly that have dementia, it's the
Yeah.
mentally ill
Yeah.
who need assistance like
Yeah.
Mhm.
And there are
on a
always the
higher level.
places, yeah, that are understaffed, can't get anyone to work there. And then the people that are there that are good are overworked and
Yep,
Yeah.
and
like,
exhausted, burnt out.
exhausted. And
Right.
like you can imagine even they might have a crack or a break at times, like with dealing or helping. And it's also a very easy place for people that have ill intentions to hide and
And
Exactly. That's
also to
exactly
like
it.
do bad
do things.
stuff. Like
Exactly.
you think about it like with they always say that about corrections agents too,
Mhm.
or because that's another space where you have a vulnerable population that people don't really care that much about and as a general population, so like just an easy target.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So and that's what breeds negative entities again, that low level um easy to feel
Mhm.
energy,
It's
negativity.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting how those things those buildings hold on to energy too. Um I think it's
Yeah.
funny that like you've mentioned two stories that have been blamed on women.
Oh yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah. Well,
yeah,
that's
like,
normal.
and then you were like, but I feel like the second one you were like, it felt like a man.
Mhm.
And the first one you said like this woman like drowned little boys. And I'm like, there are not
Native
many
American spirit.
women.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not many women who want to hurt children. Um,
No.
there's not many people that want to hurt children, thank God.
There's like
But
not a lot of women that want to hurt a lot of things, to be
No.
honest. Like
yeah, I mean,
it's
there's
not the
some.
overall.
It's not an over. Yeah, it's not. But take that for what it is. But when you were telling that story, I was like, I don't sense that that was a woman that would
Mhm.
be doing that. Like
No.
hurting small children. It didn't ring true to me when I was kind of
Mhm.
like listening. So I was like, I wonder if it's just an entity. It doesn't have to be a man or a woman. It could
Well,
just be
and
an
I think it's just the way the story is told. Like
Yeah.
yeah. It's just
I
how
think
they
a
they
lot of the
tell it.
time, like historically, we always try to make it like a
Urban
single
legend.
person
Yeah.
or
Oh
a
yeah.
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 Try to pin it on like a specific story.
Yeah.
Absolutely. To me, those things, though, like I don't feel like any one energy, especially if they were alive at one point, would actually have that kind of strength or ability or power.
Mhm.
Sure.
I feel like sometimes entities pretend or project that they are a person who died or just a person in general.
Mhm.
So that way, like our minds, alive, think that like, oh my God, it was a woman and it was a Native American
Mhm.
woman and it was, like, but truly it's an entity and these entities have just a little they're just a little bit more powerful. There's more of them. So it could be multiple entities that are pretending to be one person, and I know that gets into like some scary stuff, but that's what this podcast is about.
Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah, spooky.
yeah.
It sounds terrifying.
Yeah, I'm glad because um
Give you that $20 later.
yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
But yeah, I feel like that's what those are. And maybe I'm wrong, but
But maybe like more of an energy collection than like a
it
single
is.
entity
Mhm.
having done something wrong.
Yeah. Like those negative things, like they're not powerful as a single space, so they collect themselves into I'll harken it back to the Bible. Where the Bible, the demon says we are legion. It means
Mm,
we are many. There's
yeah, there's
many
a lot
of
of us.
yeah, because they don't have the power to like, like one of them does not have the power. Multiple of them can cause damage, but
Right.
like they don't like hang out by themselves. It's not,
Mhm.
a single entity. And so
It's like a
like
ghost gang all the time.
yeah, yeah. And so like when you're talking
Ugh.
about like, oh, these little kids, we were hoping for like all the little kids' handprints and stuff, and I'm like, that's not kids, those are demons. Like those are like,
Right.
and I don't really believe in
They're
demons
not
necessarily,
children.
but I believe in negative entities, right? Like I
Yeah.
don't believe in demons. I don't know how to say this the right way. I believe that there are quote unquote demonic things, but I don't believe that they are the way that like
They're portrayed.
Christianity believes it to be. Like they're not from the pit of hell. I don't necessarily believe in hell either. I believe that the other side is full of many different levels, right? Um, but like we all are the light, and I think that a lot of these entities started as light and forgot their way, and
Well, you guys,
sometimes
I think Nick brought it up.
Mhm.
Like sometimes there are bad people,
hmm
and it's not necessarily like bad. It also feels like such a permanent word. Like
right.
there are people who have not had their needs met in some way or another,
Mhm.
hmm
um, who found kind of nefarious ways to meet their own needs in a lot of respects.
Sure.
Um, and I genuinely believe that the more that I do, this is so kitschy, but love is like a really big deal, and like attention and like touch and people and like just community stuff. Like I think that people that tend to be left alone in life
hmm
will come back in death.
They
And
could
I
be.
mean
Yeah.
left alone in the sense of like just like not like not having unfinished business, but like never got the love that like I personally believe every human deserves,
Hmm.
Sure.
like with a life.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you didn't finish your lessons, you'll grow up on the other side with other people, or sometimes you'll come back if you live to an old age. Some entities, some spirits, ghosts rather, will attach themselves to somebody else to either learn the right lessons or um kind of feed off of them.
Do bad
like
stuff.
like a drug
Hmm.
addict, like somebody who's addicted to drugs. If you died addicted to drugs and you come back and you're supposed to be learning lessons and you're supposed to attach yourself to somebody who would not do drugs, but you don't want to do that, you attach yourself to somebody who is addicted to drugs, you're going to like just to get that feeling because they again they feed you off your energy.
Hmm.
Somebody who is drug addicted will have an entity attached to them that's making them do it more and more and more and more. And I'm not saying
Sure.
all people who are addicted to drugs,
Hmm.
but it can happen, because it's just it's a hanger on somebody who, and then that person's gonna die and they're like, what the hell?
Hmm.
So but like it that can happen.
Yeah.
Um and does happen.
Makes sense.
But it's scary and it's but it's true. Like if you choose not to learn your lessons, you will learn them one way or another. It's just a matter of how long is it going to take you and how much
Right.
struggle are you going to have and how much pain do you want to go through, you
Hmm.
know?
How
But
many terrible deaths do you need to face?
yeah, yeah. But we all learn our lessons and we are all light. And I think, we all are God connected. And I think even entities all started as light and then lost their way,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's how I feel that these things are these negative hangers on, these things that cause evil and trauma and things like that. But it's just my ideas of it and,
Yeah. I think it makes sense. I
thoughts.
was, you made me think of Soul Asylum actually, and Black Gold. The lyrics, nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd. So
Hmm.
like, it's like two boys on a playground trying to push each other down. See the crowd gather around. Nothing attracts a crowd like a crowd, and it just makes me think about like all the old school adages, like your mom used to say, like the company you keep is the company you make, all those types of things. So like
Sure.
in death, like it's kind of sad and scary at the same time that if you're addicted and then you don't quite cross over or whatever, you might attach to the same kind of party afterwards to kind of continue the cycle and sort of bring them
That would
down.
be hell.
Right.
That would be
So,
hell, right? Like that's actually
right,
like a weird limbo that you just
right,
keep. It's a Groundhog's Day. You just
right,
keep waking up in the same
Cycling.
shitty
right.
circumstances. Like,
And there's people
Yeah.
that actually like believe that the like the what is it the seven levels of hell or something like that, like
Yeah.
oh
the
yeah,
different
Seven
things that are
circles.
going circles. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so anyways, but that's kind of like what I was taking in when you were talking about that thing. It makes a lot of sense both, psychologically and in real life because
yeah.
um we're kind of dealing with a lot of the loudest voices attract the most attention, whether it's negative or positive, and it pulls other people in. Nothing
Mm-hmm.
attracts a crowd like a crowd.
Like a crowd. No, I love
Uh,
that.
the seven circles is that I? It just reminded me of Dante. Is it Dante's Inferno
Yeah,
that are the seven circles of hell?
I believe
I
so.
just read something today that made me laugh so hard because they were like essentially the gentleman who wrote that was just writing a burn book like a couple hundred years ago. Like he might as well have been like Adonis is a fugly slut. Like because the whole thing is just complaining about people
Yeah.
he didn't like. Like it's just
He
like
doesn't even go here.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be great if he was just getting run over for eternity? Over and over again. He gets up and he gets smushed again. That's so funny. My gosh.
made me laugh.
Yeah.
Ay, ay, ay. Well, I guess it's that time, huh?
Yeah, I think
Unfortunately,
so.
I'm having so much fun.
Yeah.
We
Katie, thank
did
you for
it.
sharing your stories.
Thank you for having
And
me. So
yeah,
fun.
Yeah. We got to
now
have you
I
back.
learned stuff about you too. You had a near-death experience, and
Yeah.
Hmm.
that's
We
that
do
was
that
great.
watch party thing. We're definitely inviting you. I think that
Oh, for sure.
we should have you a part of that.
I need to go to Union Tavern, a billion
Yeah.
Oh,
percent. And
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
then, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely need to get to Lilydale. I was like looking at what's coming up because I was like, how can I convince my husband that I need to go on like a 2 day
Pilgrimage.
witch trip. I don't know.
Which trip?
Witch
You can go to
trip.
Salem too, which is the
Yeah.
opposite direction. So
It's the
Well,
witch
my
tour
girlfriend,
then.
my one of my best friends in life actually does birth charts, and she is a feng shui like decorator. Like that's how
Mhm.
she, but in my birth chart, and I'll just like I'll end here, but like I told you earlier, my grandma was like a nightmare. Um, what how she saw us in my birth chart was that I was this like big massive wave, and my grandma was like a candle,
Mhm.
and
mm,
she could always feel that I would probably put her out at some
Mhm.
point. And it makes me laugh to think because like that's a very like nice way to put our relationship. Like that was
Mhm.
like kind of how we were together. And I think those energies are so interesting that like you can just pull those things from like charts.
yeah.
Like
Mhm.
like even the way you read the tarot and like even the way horoscopes work and stuff like that. Like that's why I believe in like timing and kismet and all that stuff because like you're
Yeah.
like how does
Hmm.
it just align? How does this just work that way?
Because you make a soul contract before you come down, and then you wait for that moment, and you come down at that moment, and then your stars align, and there you go. You
It's been fun.
yeah. I last thing, Nick, sorry.
No, you're
But
good. I'm
we
good.
I had my soul chart read the other day by a very well-known psychic, and I waited a long time for that. It was so cool. But it was an hour-long session, and she said, we were talking about like what I do, and she was like, you you know you are a spiritual servant, like you are a spiritual servant, and this is what you are meant to do, and when you're ready to do it, you'll do it. But it was about my my abilities and my mediumship and things like that. She said, you came here, it's so clear in your chart, um that you came here to do this, and she was like, I eventually mentioned I had a podcast about this, and she was like, yeah, that makes total sense. You're here to teach people, you're here to serve, you're here to give messages, and that's what you're going to do. And I believe that I serve in lots of ways, whether it's being funny or, helping somebody find their house, or sell their house. And, those are ways of serving to me. Um, but the mediumship stuff and the tarot cards, I've said it many times on here, I don't do it. Like, I do it for friends, but I won't do it like I won't do it for a job. And I never say never. Like maybe someday, like I'll be like, in my 50s and be like, you know what, like maybe I want to do that. But for right now, I feel it's more of service to do it for people that really, really need it or who ask me for it in a different capacity, like in my friendships, the people that come into my life, just different.
Well,
Mhm.
I think
Um,
it reminds me a lot of like a volunteer because like you are like from your past, like you're a strong businesswoman. Like you've been in marketing, you killing it at real estate. So like you have these like drives and these passions that are going to keep you financially like cool.
yeah.
And then, but this, like
Yeah.
what you're doing, like when you do tarot, when you do the readings, when you share those kinds of messages and those things, and even like, you would arrange the Union Tavern event that you guys did too, right? So like
Mhm.
those things, bringing those people to those things is like your volunteer work almost.
Yeah.
It's just like your soul work. Like it just feels good. It doesn't have to like have a monetary
Exactly.
exchange.
No, and that's the thing. And I'm totally not against people making money at that. I
Yeah, for
don't want,
sure.
but at this juncture,
But for you,
I don't want to make money at it. Like
yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
serve it in a way that, like you said, it's my own volunteerism, it's my own communication with people, and that's what it is. So, yeah, for right now, that's what I love to do. Okay, Nick, I will
Mhm.
end.
I don't want to leave, so I don't
Listener,
know
if
why
you
it's
stayed
mine.
with us this whole time, you're a rock star. Thank
Yeah.
you. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Katie. Katie, thank you for coming,
Yes,
and
definitely.
telling us your stories. We appreciate you, and I'm excited to get back to the stage with you too.
Yeah, me too.
We're off for the summer, but next
I
show is in
have
August.
I have struggle with that.
I know. I'm so excited.
I know, me too.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. I'm getting the husband phone call, so I gotta.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
Sure.
whether it's Maku, how the hell do you say that? Maku?
Maku, it's a rice
Maku.
beer, and this is going to be a quick plug for Lenore's in Rochester because if you haven't been, go. I love that place, and the rice
Lenore.
beer is delicious, and you can sit at the bar and watch them cook amazing sticky rice and just
Oh,
like,
awesome.
Sweet.
yeah,
Lenores. Okay,
chive.
so whether it's Maku or ghosts, keep your spirits up, everybody.